I'm sure you're seeing the headlines about Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. It's increasing tensions between China and the United States, with both countries making belligerent statements against one another over this trip. A spokesperson for some Chinese media outlet said her plane should be shot down. And this was repeated throughout the US media Sunday. It's really not clear how important this figure is, but yesterday China started aggressive overflights in the Taiwan Straits. The Biden administration, its Secretary of State, made statements to the fact that China is being aggressive and kind of victimizing the world. But at the same time, the administration distanced itself from Pelosi's trip, saying they're not telling her to go. It's up to her whether she should go. And the Pentagon is saying it's ill-advised and she's going anyway. And now, this is all breaking out everywhere. I even saw a story ranking up on Google Trends. Are we going to have World War III with China? No, we're not. But definitely this is increasing fear. It's causing even people in the stock market to do some selling in the futures before the opening bell today. But what's going on here? Why is Nancy Pelosi even doing this? Because she is the highest ranking member of the United States political system to go to China in over 20 years now. And it is definitely increasing the tensions. And to show you how it's dominating the US news cycle today, every single morning, I send out a news digest full of the top stories of the day you need to know about. And it's at the top of all the major news websites, US. The headline on CNBC, Bloomberg's headline, Nancy Pelosi to visit Taiwan as China threatens military action. It was at the very top of their website. Chinese warplanes buzz the line dividing Taiwan Strait. The very top of Reuters and many news sites pick up Reuters headlines, reprint them. This is the biggest story of the day. I would suggest, though, to step back from the situation a little bit. Very rarely does the U.S. media do that. And it's not just them, it's the same thing, the alternative media. Everything is so caught up in the short-term news cycle that very rarely are the events of today analyzed with the events of the past or even statements made by the past. And if we look at the statements of Biden administration officials, Pelosi's actions actually make sense because they have stated that they want increased tensions with China. They have said that they want a tense global situation and that they need it for domestic U.S. politics and a very important segment of the U.S. economy. That without it, the U.S. economy would perhaps even collapse. So what in the world am I talking about? And can I back up such statements? Yes, I can. And last year, in October and November, I did two important articles on my website, WallStreetWindow. And the second article links to the first one. I'll link to this article in the description below this video. But Biden administration told China it needs a play Cold War, but doesn't want a real one. And basically, the New York Times did a series of articles on this. That look, the U.S. media has various outlets. They function on different levels. Fox News, MSNBC, CNN are really created for the masses. And they both have different audiences. Fox has a more conservative audience, obviously, than CNN and MSNBC. But both those networks cater to their audience with a lot of fear. Fox, fear of the liberals, what are they going to do next? Cultural issues, intentions of China. China is the demon. And MSNBC flips it. The conservatives are the ones to be scared of. And in Russia and Ukraine are the war in Ukraine, are big themes that they talk about, and occasionally China. But the fear is what drives ratings for these networks. And so the China situation helps drive ratings. Events like today help drive television ratings. But the political system needs some amount of fear too. And that's what this article is about in the New York Times. So the New York Times isn't really designed for the mass audience, of tens of millions of people. It does have an audience of 2 or 3 million paying subscribers, but they're more a professional, more liberal class of people. And and also the establishment in Washington, D.C. And this article was fascinating because what I talk about was an article in the New York Times by David Sanger, who basically serves as a mouthpiece for the national security state, sort of like a stenographer for them, for the Pentagon, the Defense Department, the military industrial complex, the Central Intelligence Agency, the defense industry. And what it read as if it was a statement for China to read, to understand the people, the elites of China, to understand why the United States is increasing tension. So a year ago, the United States, the Biden administration, they announced an alliance with Australia and England to create a new submarine program designed to counter China, completely modernizing the ballistic missile submarine fleet, an escalation in weapons programs, basically. And they were designed to, these programs are going to be designed to counter China. And one of the gist of the China, of this article when I say this article, I don't mean my article, I mean the source of it, this New York Times article, was that programs like this are necessary for the defense industry. And they said that the goal, Jacob Sullivan's, Biden's national security advisor, was quoted as saying, "Our goal is not containment. It's not a new Cold War. It's rather a favorable disposition, which the U.S. and its allies can shape the international rules of the road on all sorts of issues that are going to matter to the people of the U.S. and the people everywhere. We want peaceful competition. The goal is to have two powers operate inside the international system." What that means is the history of the Cold War was one in which the United States and the Soviet Union completely split into two economic blocs that had very little trade between one another. Sullivan was saying that's not what we want. We still want the trade. And the article admitted that we really cannot completely split, that the US still needs to trade with China, and that China still needs the US buying from them. The two countries are so intertwined economically, and China is so integrated into the global economy that the US is still at the top of, that it's not in the interest of other countries to completely split apart. However, despite that, the New York Times article said, quote, "In Washington, one of the few issues that overrides the partisan divides in Congress is the specter of Chinese competition. In such crucial areas as semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing, the issue of China is used to align both parties in interests within both parties together in bipartisan legislation. It's the defense bill itself that the parties unite on, and China and global tensions is used to justify defense spending." So, for example, quote, "For example, the Senate bill as passed offers $52 billion to expand domestic chip manufacturing, far beyond anything the United States considered when battling Japan's technological dominance in the same industry for more than 30 years. In other words, this is me writing, the United States needs global tensions on some level in order to continue its military industrial complex. This is what Sanger in the New York Times article labels industrial policy. I call it what Eisenhower called it, the military industrial complex. With the end of the war on terror, China and Ukraine serve to justify U.S. defense spending and to justify increasing it. And these global tensions are necessary for the United States political system to do that and to unite the politicians. And also, it generates, as I said, television ratings. The politicians in both parties benefit. So-called alternative media benefits from it too. And if you'll notice, figures in the alternative well, what is the alternative media now? It's all mishmash with the mainstream media. You see that with figures such as Tucker Carlson, who says he's against U.S. intervention. However, on issues of China, he's an Uber hawk. So he's in alignment with hawks too. So it's all a strange mishmash that we're in the United States political system with these characters. But the way I interpret Pelosi's trip, I think the way to understand it is it's an event that's used to increase tensions between the United States and China. It's not an event designed to create a war of any sorts, but it's an event designed to help justify defense spending and these same sort of tensions or needs are going on in China too. Make no doubt about it that their premier is not using incidents like this to help bolster his political power, to help create a crisis to bring his people together. It's crises that help that are the health of the state, so to speak, to put it that way. So this is today's event. Something else will happen before the year's over. This will pass and go, but it is what it is. So if I talk about all sorts of topics, investing, real estate, news like this, if you want to hear more news like this from me, hit the like button. And if you want to get my next video update, if you're new to me, hit subscribe and then hit the bell next to it, and YouTube will send you an alert as soon as the next video is up. And I'll be talking with you later.